is a murderer on the loose. A silent killer that strikes when you least expect, whose carnage knows no bounds. Fabric softener, strip clubs, Applebee's, all have fallen victim of the deadly millennial. You know, we millennials get a lot of abuse. Just the other week, the boomers came out in force to decry the millennial spring breakers partying in the midst of Corona, despite even our youngest being out of that age group since Obama. Seems the only thing boomers in silence, yes, that is the term for the generation before boomers, hate as much as the participation trophies they gave us, is millennials themselves. But instead of lashing out with an, okay boomer, perhaps we should try and understand them instead, and see what they were doing during their spring break years. This is Pajama Party. Pajama Party is the fourth in a series of beach party films developed by American International Pictures. These movies featured a stock cast often playing different roles, and bit parts by established stars past their prime. Think of it like American Horror Story, which would make Pajama Party the freak show season of the series. Most of these movies starred Annette Funicello and Frankie Avalon and had pretty much the same framing device. Teenagers go to the beach, teenagers want to hook up, wacky hijinks ensue. Dance party! Since there's nothing really to spoil, we're going to take a more in-depth look at this one. But let me warn you, what follows defies all logic and comprehension. Gang warfare, an elder god in human form, and severe hairstyles. You have been warned.
Oh dear, it's commencing!
The movie begins with a group of way too peppy teenagers at a mansion who split off into way too close changing rooms. It's at this point I feel the need to share the tagline of this movie. Yeah. And a way too happy pool party starts. The movie then cuts to Mars. Don Rickles and an unseen Martian leader discuss an impending invasion of Earth. The advanced scout is Gogo, played by Tommy Kirk, who apparently still hasn't fully recovered from shooting Old Yeller. But enough of that. Back to the ass, where a dance party has broken out.
This is a pajama party?
Not yet. Watch closely and become the talk of your next shindig by mastering the dances in this movie, including the twist, the water horse, the Kobe Metallica, the whiplash, the I just learned what clapping was, the group Brock Lesnar, the mosquito swat, the don't tase me bro, the double basketball, the roast pig, and the I'm firing my agent. Speaking of which, this gyrating sex bot is Gilda, whose dancing causes bottle caps to pop off. One would think that is a sex gag, but then this happens. I don't know what that is supposed to mean, and at this point I'm kind of afraid. Luckily in the next scene, Jesus and his sister Sheezus show up. We are 4 minutes in, and so far we have seen Jesus, a Martian invasion, and someone with the ability to implode flowers. Sanity is restored temporarily as Annette Funicello gets her first line of the movie, attempting to seduce a MAGA bro named Big Lunk, who doesn't get the hint.
Look over there. Doesn't that make you think of something?
Heck yeah. It's time for volleyball practice.
The scene cuts to the villain of the movie, Jay Sinister Hulk. He and his henchmen are planning to steal Big Lunk's aunt's fortune through a series of poorly thought out plans.
Listen very carefully. No, you listen to me.
Boss, I got a problem.
Right next door is more money than you and me has ever seen.
But enough about him. Back to the teenagers. The game immediately takes a horrific turn as Gilda puts Big Lunk into a coma with an underhand serve. We have only begun to scratch the surface of Gilda's power. While they decide what organs need to be harvested, it's time to head back to the house, where the owner, Big Lunk's Aunt Wendy, played by the bride of Frankenstein herself, Elsa Lanchester, is breaking the fourth wall and talking to flowers that avoided Gilda's wrath.
I shall have to talk to you about the birds and the bees and the teenagers.
Before we can process this, Gogo shows up on a jetpack. Wendy is as unimpressed by the special effects as we are.
You're casting shadows on my roses.
Back at the beach, Gilda decides she is a merciful god and grants Big Lunk his life. Annette is annoyed that her recently necromanced boyfriend won't bang her and pouts adorably.
Oh, him.
And because this is a beach movie, a middle-aged motorcycle gang shows up. Luckily, the bloodbath is averted by wackiness. Back at the Martian invasion, Go-Go is attempting to convince Wendy that he's a Martian, with limited results.
Isn't that nice?
She finally asks his name, and despite the movie having a Big Lunk, J. Sinister Hulk, and Gilda, his name simply won't do.
That's ridiculous. I shall call you George.
We cut back to Captain Geach and the Shrimp Shack shooters.
This is a pajama party?
No! And you know what? This song actually slaps. Right in time for an audaciously choreographed dance number featuring unnamed beachgoers. But all is not well, as Gilda once again shows up to assert dominance by dancing slightly slower than everyone else. Now, I'm not one to deny Gilda is attractive, but stealing away all the men from a group of women that includes both Tony Basil of cheerleading anthem Hey Mickey and Terry Garr, aka Inga from Young Frankenstein, is a bit of a stretch. What does she have that they don't? Oh well, add succubus powers to the list. It's at this point that we as an audience require another sacrifice from old Hollywood. And out comes the legendary Buster Keaton of all people, in a role that is, shall we say, insensitive.
Cowabunga! Instant scalp.
The less said about his performance as Chief Rodden-Eagle, the better. But props to Buster. Even at age 68, he still did his own stunts. Back at the beach.
This is a pajama party?
Not yet. It's time for the main song of the movie to be sung by a woman wearing a basset hound on her head.
'Cause that's the way it's done among the young.
Gilda has entranced another group of men and is apparently a pyromancer now. Aunt Wendy, meanwhile, meets up with Annette and decides that she will set her up with George. They're the perfect match. He's a Martian, and she has an inner ear imbalance. It's at this point we realize that Frankie Avalon is missing from the Frankie and Annette movie. Luckily, the movie lets us know we're not crazy and have a smooth new leading man.
George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Mickey Mantle, Frankie Avalon.
You certainly have a well-rounded education.
And you have a well-rounded...
What?
Meanwhile, at a dress shop, Dorothy Lamour, as seen in the many Road 2 movies with Bing Crosby and Bob Hope, grows increasingly frustrated by those damn teenagers before coming around in a surprisingly fun musical number.
In my day, we never did it this way. Where did I go wrong?
Gilda, meanwhile, can control volcanoes. Some of the worst kissing set to film, and one madcap car chase comedy of errors later, we get our first pajama moment of the movie, 50 minutes in. Annette sings a song about wanting a real doll, since George isn't getting the hint.
A stuffed animal never kissed me.
Gilda taunts her, and Annette shows true courage, barely escaping her wrath after a poorly thought-out pillow throw.
Huh? Just as I suspected. Connie, you're in love with George.
Later, on Creeper Cam, Annette walks in on George talking to the Martians, and finally accepts that he might be an alien. To recap, she accepted this was his singing voice.
There has to be a reason.
But Martian? Yeah, that was just unbelievable. I just want to point out, there is no explanation as to why Big Lunk is rigor mortis against the wall. Beach movie. Finally, Hulk and company come up with the ultimate plan to steal Aunt Wendy's money.
A pajama party.
Because, sure. So, with 20 minutes left in the movie, it is finally time!
This is a pajama party?
Yes! But what of the Martian invasion? Luckily for humanity, Jake Sully decides he loves Neytiri and will help the Na'vi defend Pandora. But all is not well in Pajama Land, as the party is invaded by the motorcycle gang! Let's get ready to rumble! Things aren't looking good for the partiers, but George has a death ray, and Gilda, tired of living in a world made of cardboard, has a rare opportunity for her to finally cut loose and show just how powerful she really is. And she's apparently a centaur! The day is saved, the villains are sent to Mars, and a hybrid species of human and Martian is conceived to rule over the enslaved masses. As young and old dance us into the credits. And that's Pajama Party. And for those of you worried that I just gave everything away, don't worry. I left out at least half of this chaos. You really need to see it for yourself. So what have we learned? Pajama parties lead to bloodshed. Mars will never invade so long as we have comely young Disney stars? Or perhaps that the very same people that thumb their nose at those younger than them should remember that they too once turned out in droves to shamelessly celebrate youth and bad decisions. And pajamas. But above all, there's one thing we need to take away from this. We must live in fear of Gilda. Thank you to everyone that watched. If you enjoyed, please leave a comment and hit that subscribe button. And if you found a movie on your trips through the Amazon worth mentioning, by all means, let me know. Stay safe, and happy treasure hunting, everyone.